Thank you so much, Dr. Derby Davis. So we do have a special presentation to open up for you all. So we invite you to join us in this moment in engaging in the arts.
You are powerful. Placed on this planet with passion and purpose, you innovate. Where others see struggle, you see solutions. You're weary though. From casting your cares aside, at times swallowing your pride, you push through, you drive. That's nursing. That's power. That's leading with service on days where you feel like the check mark in the diversity box. The perfect candidate for the company brochure, the days where you feel more down than mindful and demure, you endure. Do not forget to care for yourself. Be creative. You, the art of problem solving and the artist in sickness and in health, you improvise, collaborate, make shifts look like poetry with makeshift PPE from toiletries. I'd call it magic, but there is no trick to your truth. There are many out there who can't do what you do. A minority who couldn't be more major. In a field where the oppressed are silenced in favor of white skin, your white coat is a megaphone. You amplify, advocate, catalyze, innovate. You come to work every day an artist because you find a way. There's power in the plays you make. In this, the art of nursing. In you, ever the artist.
Thank you. So we have to give a shout out to everyone that's made it possible. So incredible thanks to the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. If you're in the house, we'd like to see you give us a hand wave. They have been extremely transformative in our journey, and so just incredibly grateful for their sponsorship. Johnson & Johnson, if they're in the house, give us a wave. So tomorrow they will be sponsoring a lunchtime sessions around storytelling, so we invite you to join us tomorrow during lunch for that. QAE, the sponsor of our Mix and Mingle last night, we are so grateful for their generosity, and also Duet. Coppin State University, y'all in the house, hey! Dean Tillman, thank you so much and your team for sponsoring us and also blessing us with your first 5 now official DMPs in the house, so thank you. Special thanks to our bronze sponsors, Georgetown University, Hoya Saxa, the George Washington University School of Nursing, Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, thank you. Takeda, Compassion and Choices, I thought I saw y'all in the house. Penn Nursing, thank you so much. A&A Innovation, thank you. Flywell Health, Abundance Healthcare, Dr. Blue, the Manning Price Spratling Center at University of Washington, the Johns Hopkins School of Nursing, thank you. Duke University School of Nursing, East Carolina University, and Frontier Nursing University. Thank you. Also, special shout out to our small business sponsors. So, Dr. Ducky Enterprises, she hooked me up with lots of swag. She's our official conference swag provider. So, please make sure you get some merch from her in the exhibit hall. Nurses on the Move, Innovative Healthcare Strategies, Taylor Professional Coaching, the Institute for Health Social Equity, Resilio, and the Eden Health Restored. Thank you. Also, shout out to the National Organization of Nurses with Disabilities. Really, really special thanks to them because they are helping us to think about an inclusive lens of our conferencing and event experiences. So want to definitely elevate them as an organization and thank them for having us to make sure we're being inclusive of everyone. The Rory Myers College of Nursing at New York University, the National Society of Black Physician Assistants, the Black Nurse Collaborative, Multicultural CRNA, they have a conference coming up in December, so shout out to them. The Jonas Nursing Veterans Healthcare, the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, and we've got a couple people duplicate, but that's okay. And then NP Hub. Also, shout out to University of Maryland School of Nursing. They are our badge sponsor, but I have to give an apology because our vendor made an error twice. So you have Georgetown University badges. It should be University of Maryland School of Nursing. But they have been a constant supporter from us when we were just shooting in the gym. Like they have been hardcore, consistent every year. So shout out to them for being our sponsor for the 4th year in a row. So Dr. Conyers, Dean Ogbulu, and any University of Maryland School of Nursing folks in the house, thank you so much. Wahoo Wah, my alma mater, University of Virginia School of Nursing, where y'all at? Ayy. Also, University of Virginia Health Center for Advanced Practice, thank you so much. Also, I'm suited and booted because of Turner and Spencer, so let me go ahead and do a walk for y'all. So shout out to Turner and Spencer for got me looking right. So all suits that you see me in, baby, is Turner and Spencer. Got me feeling like a real CEO out here in these streets. Hey, can't nobody tell me nothing, or Angela for that one. I figured I'd give y'all a little Angela today. Also, shout out to Uncle Bobby's Coffee and Books. They are the provider of the Legacy books, Dr. Uche Blackstock's books. For us, again, critically important to be intentional about who we partner with and invest in. So they are a small Black-owned bookstore. So if you're in the hood, in the neighborhood, please go by, get some coffee, hang out, buy books, go online, buy books from them if you weren't able to get a book this morning. Also, shout out to Dr. Blue for his generous donation of the Legacy books for you all. So thank you, Dr. Blue. Also, thank you to One Accord Health, who's been riding with us literally from the beginning. Dr. Melhado, if you're in the building, thank you so much. They are our CE provider. Also, shout out to Advanced Planning Learning Institute. Everything that you see, all the glitz, the glamour, the organization is because of this organization. So shout out to Dr. Janice Linton. I know she likes to be behind the scenes, but thank you. Also, shout out to Nurses You Should Know. I know y'all in the building. They're also ensuring that we center the historical significance of Black and brown nurses, not only in our program, but just in society. So thank you to them for bringing the historical elements to our organization and to our conferences. Also to Assisters Touch, if they're in the building. Yes, Dr. Campbell, thank you so much for your work. And then Latrina Walden Exam Solutions. She is the only Black woman leading in exam preparation for advanced practice nurses. So if you are going to get your certification, you need to see Latrina Walden Exam Solutions. We have a discount for members, so please make sure that you utilize her services. And then also we have exhibitors, so feel free to check them out. We do have Johnson & Johnson, Coppin, Boston Scientific, who I didn't elevate. Also, Center for Nursing Research and Innovation. We are partnering with Dr. Souffrant and her team. She has created a fellowship for DNPs of color, essentially, that are interested in being translational nurse scientists. So she is providing them an opportunity to learn that skill so that they can be of service through diversifying the literature. So we're really excited about her work. Dr. Sellers Educate as well will be there as an exhibitor. And then I want to, if anyone from Artwell is here, would like to invite them down. If not, we have a video that we want to share. So with each conference, we have a nonprofit that we sponsor, and we ask, how can we be of service? This nonprofit would like us to sponsor and be of service through fundraising. I need you all to help us reach our goal. It was $5,000, but I doubled it because I really want to challenge our community to be of true service. And we out here with doctorate degrees, and I know y'all close to six figures, if not well into six figures. So everybody got at least $100 to drop. But I'm going to play their sizzle reel, but also just really want to drive home, like, give to the cause and the mission, not necessarily because we have a silent auction with gifts. One being this commission piece by Dr. Ali Tayyeb. That's also going for the auction. But I'm going to play their sizzle reel, and I want you to get your phones out, and I want you to scan this QR code that I'm about to post up. Get your phones out and scan the QR code. $5, $10. Bid on some of the things that people have donated. We really, really want to show Artwell that DNPs of color, the nursing community, really wants to invest in their mission of literally saving youth through the arts. They're helping them through their mental health. They're helping them to realize their identity and their potential so that they can be productive and contribute to society and really release their potential. So please scan the QR code, drop some dollars on the auction, and there's also an option there that you can just submit a general donation.
Artwell was founded in 2000 as a way to help communities to heal and build connections with one another in the face of violence, in the face of discrimination, in the face of racism, in the face of so many things that make life more difficult. Artwell is one place and one organization that is really dedicated to helping people and young people in particular to heal through the arts.
Thank you for that. Also, our wellness practitioner, Dr. Derby Davis, she has an online wellness portal. It is well done, top tier. So also make sure that you are engaging in the wellness portal. And without further ado, we are going to get our program started. So I want to welcome to the stage Jahman Hill, Dr. Jamal-Eddine, Alexander Murphy, move expeditiously and quickly because we're behind on schedule. Dr. Tayyeb, yes, and then also Dr. Canty. Hand clap for our first panel. Thank you.
Okay, is sitting right here okay? Okay. Good morning, everyone. Okay, just honored to be here, especially among this great panel. Art has always been part of our histories. A lot of times we're told in nursing to separate ourselves, only focus on the science. But we know to work and do the things that we do in our communities, we had to have an art to what we do. We knew how to reach our communities. We knew how to send messages so that other people couldn't understand what we were saying, but we knew what we were saying. So I'm just grateful. Thank you so much, Dr. McCamey, for having the arts incorporated into this conference because it's so important to who we are. So I'm grateful to be here. So what I would like to do, though, is start by having our panelists introduce themselves and talk about how did you have, because again, we're told that we have to separate ourselves in nursing, just focus on the skills. So how did you start to incorporate the arts into your work? We'll start with you.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay. Hello, my name is Alexander Murphy. I am a dancer. I have been an artist probably my entire life. I am not a nurse, but I respect so much of what you all do. So I feel like in my spirit and in my soul, I have always been a dancer. Even before I had any training, we used to host these talent shows in my family, and the only reason we hosted them is so I could sing and dance and perform, to be honest. And every single year I would win, because I would throw a tantrum if I didn't. So my parents were like, yeah, let's put him into sports. And so once I really found my voice and who I was, I started in the arts. Now, how I started dancing, growing up in Florida, I was a 16-year-old roaming the LGBTQ plus clubs. And that's where I really found a passion for dance, just being in a club. And you all may or may not know, I'm not gonna assume everybody goes to the club or has been, but there is such a liberation when you are dancing, when you and everybody around you has no cares in the world, and you're just living in that moment, and your favorite song comes on, and the joy that it brings. I really resonated with that, and I wanted to continue that in my career. So I don't really separate, because I show up as myself, who is a dancer, who is an artist, who is a performer. But I also, in addition to working in higher education, I have the ability to also be a professional dancer. So it kind of fuses the two. I don't get much sleep, but hey, that'll be a later issue, right?
Good morning, everybody. My name is Jahman Hill. I'm the executive director of a nonprofit in Birmingham, Alabama, the Flourish, Alabama. I'm also the executive in residence for the Center for Innovation, Commercialization, and Growth at Miles College. And I'm an adjunct professor at the University of Alabama in the Gender and Race Studies Department. And with all of that, those are all I consider them other than the Flourish, those are like side jobs. I'm creative. What I spend the majority of the time doing is working on poetry, film, music, creative production. I'm also not a nurse. My mom's a nurse though, so that's how Abundance Healthcare in the building. So that's how I'm here, and I'm able to be a part of this. I would say that for me, especially with my main form of art that I became known for was poetry. I started like a lot of young black boys, I'm gonna be a rapper. I remember in middle school, me and my friend Dominique Carey, we had our own little duo rap group. It was Big D and Lil J, and I was Lil J. And it was really cool, but I didn't really get into creative, seeing myself really as a creative at the time. I didn't really realize it to the same effect that I do now. It was once I got into college at the University of Alabama, and my friend Eric Marable Jr., who we co-founded the Flourish with, he was like, "Hey, you should try writing poetry." And I was like, "Okay, cool, I'll try it out." And then from there, it just changed the whole trajectory of my life. Before then, I was looking at becoming an ambassador, going over to the Middle East. I did Middle East relations in school, and I was going to eventually become a Secretary of State. And now I run an arts nonprofit. So I would say that it's always been a part of me. My family's very creative. We joke all the time, stuff like that. We're always, cracking jokes on each other and stuff like that. So you're forced to be creative in a way, and I think everybody's creative. To even make a sentence is to create something. So I feel like it's just a part of who we are.
I just want to say quickly, first, Jamal, he's a award-winning poet and playwright. And I just want to thank the both of you. That was amazing this morning. I've never been to a conference that opened up so powerfully. So I just want to thank the both of you for that.
Sweet. Hello, my name is Dr. Sabrina Ali Jamal-Eddine. For positionality, I am an Arab disabled queer woman. I am an interdisciplinary nurse scientist and health humanities worker. and I'm a disability justice scholar activist. I did my PhD in nursing with a certificate in disability ethics, and now I am a postdoc in the Department of Disability and Human Development at University of Illinois, Chicago. So how I got into art, so when I was doing my BSN program at Ohio State University, I double majored in women's gender and sexuality studies. And so that during one of our classes early on, for the final project, the professor said, pick a chapter or a topic that we worked on during the class, and then in whatever medium you want, create something with it. So that was the first time in higher education that I ever had the opportunity to like pick my format for showing that I understood the content, which was so important, and that moment literally transformed my life because earlier in the year, they had showed us one spoken word video, and I had never seen that before, and I was just like, I got goosebumps, chills up my spine, like tears in my eyes, and I was like, oh my God, how can this like 5-minute piece of artwork make me feel so much? So I was like, I'm gonna give this a try, even though I had absolutely no like acting experience or performing experience. So I gave that a try. I picked my final project to talk about sexual assault on college campuses, and I performed it for the class, and I just had like literally everyone in the class came up to me afterwards. They're like, that made me cry. I've never cried in class before. I felt what you were saying. You need to continue doing this. So then I continued doing it, and I ended up incorporating spoken word poetry into my dissertation within my nursing program. So my dissertation explored the use of spoken word poetry as a form of critical narrative pedagogy to educate nursing students about disability, ableism, and disability justice. So spoken word, like literally, it's like that one moment that you described when someone like pushes you to do something or try something different, and it just changed my life. So yeah, that's how I got into my art form.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Ali Tayyeb. I am a registered nurse, and I want to first start with a word of gratitude and thank you for having me here. When Dr. McCamey reached out, I said, "Can I do dance?" And she said, "It's taken already."
Sorry.
You missed out. I missed the gala last night too. I couldn't do it. All right. Back to this. Art has always been a part of what I do. Currently, let me back up. ADHD. I'm currently director of nursing academic programs at one of the largest FQHCs, Ultimate in Southern California. I'm also I'm also a lecturer at California State University, Los Angeles. And I also have the RN Mentor podcast. If any of you tune into that, I also do that. I've been doing that for the past few years. Had a number of you that have been on the show. But from an art perspective, I've always done art. I don't know how many of you doodle when you're sitting somewhere and you're listening to people and you just doodle. That's an art form. So I've always been doing that. I've always done a little bit of painting as self-therapy, kind of an outlet. It just makes my brain turn off for a little bit. But I started really looking at art as a way of communication, really during the pandemic. And when the pandemic happened, I was looking to do something to get out the word about what nursing was experiencing. And I said, the default is like, I'll do a paper. And when that happened, I was like, well, everybody and their mother is doing a paper. The paper's going to go into a journal. The journal is going to make you pay to read the paper. And I was like, that's not how you communicate. That's not the best way to communicate. So I started a little project, and some of you saw it about the when the performance was happening, some of the slides had that sort of the stethoscope feel to it. So that was the Healthcare Memorial art project that I did, really bringing attention to, and it took me like all summer to build that. It's like a 7-foot by 9-foot panel. I started looking at that as a way of communicating. I reached out to my university and I said, hey, can you guys run a story on this? And they were excited to do it. That led it to being published on multiple online kind of news outlets that went into the daily news. The daily news did a whole thing on it. A couple of the newspapers in LA ran it, and a couple of them were on the front page of that. So really communicating what nursing was experiencing and what healthcare was experiencing during that time, but for the general masses, for the public. And I use that same forum sort of with more on a digital form. I do a lot of veterans work. I'm a veteran myself. I was a Navy corpsman for about 10 years, specialized in combat trauma. My research still continues to be around veterans' health. So I use my art form also for that, to communicate what veterans need to know and what the public needs to know about veterans' health. So it's just a different way of communicating and more public way, because most of the way as scientists and as people who publish, we tend to go to the journals. The journals will put it behind a paywall, and the general public doesn't have access to it. So the art forms are really a really great way to communicate to everyone in a more generalizable and understand in a way that everybody can relate to, right? It's a great medium, regardless of what kind of art yet you're doing.
Thank you all, and all of you are giving a voice or making people visible that our society wants to be unseen. So I just really appreciate that. And you all pretty much touched on this next question, but if you could elaborate a little further, what are the social issues that you want your work to address? And how do you convey those messages? Like, what specifically do you do?
Okay, I can start. In kind words, how do I say this?
You don't have to be kind.
Essentially, as a genderqueer person, fuck heteronormativity is what my art is speaking for. I focus my research, yes, dancers do research, believe it or not, whether that be physical movement or on a computer. A lot of my research centers the Black trans, Black gender nonconforming, and Black queer experience in America, and how we can take these experiences to educate people that the people who are most historically marginalized are still finding so much beauty in life and still finding, so much more reasons to live and to continue to create art. So that's a lot of what my research surrounds, but also my undergraduate thesis focused on how Eurocentricity, specifically ballet, has traumatized me as an individual, and how specifically West African dance is a form of resistance and liberation. So I'm kind of a little bit all over the place, but pretty focused in that. And how I do that, I perform, I choreograph all around DC. I am a performer, I am a choreographer. Sometimes I have to take a step back because that trauma appears, and then it's like, Alex, you're a bad bitch, keep going. So that's kind of where my work lies a little bit.
I love that. So my work centers around like the name of my nonprofit. So for my master's thesis, I did it was like y'all were mentioning earlier, I didn't want to do a paper. I don't know why I did an MA instead of MFA, but I did. I did two of them. I don't know why. I was like, I could have got a PhD, but my MA, I didn't want to do a paper, so I created a one-man show, and I had to write a paper. So I built this theory of the flourish and the idea that Black people are infinitely possible beings. And it came from like working with young Black youth in Alabama, and I was asking them, what does it mean to be Black? And all of their answers were negative. And I was like, why do we associate our blackness with negativity? And I was like, how can we shift that framework in our art? So the majority of the art that I create, I'm aiming to show the infinite possibility of blackness. So it starts off focused, but as we see, it's infinite possibility. So there are very few things that I won't try out or try to create, or stories that I won't try to tell. These days, it's like, how can we, my number one thing is changing people's ideas about what it is to be creative and finding the creativity in everyone, and recognizing that by our ability to create whatever that looks like, that's how you just because you can create, it means you're enough. Because you're a human, you exist, you're enough. There's nothing you have to do to prove yourself. And I feel like we have like the old adage, you have to like work twice as hard. You do not have to. You do not have to, and you should not have to. And that puts an onus on the oppressed people to do something extra to fight their oppression. It never puts the onus on the oppressed party to help to fix the system. So that's how I focus my art now, and it looks like, really, I be trying to get artists paid. Like, at the end of the day, like, I'm trying to get artists paid for everything. It ends up with a lot of awkward conversations with companies and organizations and city officials and stuff like that. But I'm like, hey, at the end of the day, I'm trying to get artists paid. I'm trying to get black artists paid. I'm not going to be as frank as you, because my mama up there, so I won't say the word, but I'm trying to get all my pay, you know? That's what we do. Sorry, Mom.
Okay, so I would say I have been a scholar of like black queer feminists, so like Audre Lorde and Angela Davis and Bell Hooks is where my foundation started. And that really taught me about intersectionality. So like anytime I do a poem on anything, I'm gonna be touching on multiple forms of oppression because they're also connected. Like we can't talk about ableism without talking about racism, classism, sexism, homophobia, ageism, fatphobia, transphobia, literally everything. So anytime I get the chance to like incorporate or connect those oppressions, that's what I'm doing within my artwork. And then also disability justice has taught me so much. It's like a specific movement in the Bay Area by disabled queer activists of color. So it's not just this abstract term that a lot of people co-opt it, but it's a really specific movement. And that has informed my artwork and my research so much. So yeah, I would say that's what I focus on, and then just also a transnational perspective of our oppression within the U.S. is connected to the oppression everywhere. So like colonialism, I focus on, and Islamophobia, xenophobia. So yeah, I've spent a lot of time doing that within my artwork, and also getting funding into communities of color and artists of color is like so important and something that I try to do within my research. And yeah.
Sorry. From my perspective, I really didn't, as I mentioned, I kind of fell into making art a communication piece. Because prior to that, it was really just for me, just to make my brain stop going like a million miles an hour. If you really look at it from when I really started, which was really with the pandemic piece, that I really want to go public with some of the work I was doing, I started looking at, and my own research, because my research concentrates around veterans, specifically veterans that fall in the gaps of where care is delivered, specifically veterans with less than honorable discharges, which are not qualified for many of the benefits that they should have earned, but they're denied those benefits. And as you look at those individuals, you start seeing that those individuals are coming from underrepresented populations to begin with. And now once they come out of the military and they're transitioning into the civilian world, again, they are denied benefits that were there to help them transition into the civilian community. So there's overrepresentation in the suicide, drug and alcohol abuse, incarcerations, homelessness. So a lot of my work concentrates around that area. And then when you look at from a nursing perspective, I started really looking at where are the areas that nobody's talking about, right? One of them being toxicity in academia, not necessarily towards the students, but faculty to faculty, right? So actually I'm giving a talk on it next week too about a whole bunch of faculty. And if you look at the research, nursing faculty are not researching faculty when it comes to things like this. So those are the things that we need to, so in reality, I started looking at where are the areas that people are not talking about. The money isn't there, the research isn't there, and how can we do a little bit more in helping communicate and talk about these things? And the art forms have really lent themselves, because people start looking at that and say, I recognize that. I can associate my own experiences to some of these things. So it really becomes a way, again, another way of communicating. But for me, it's really been from an area of what's not being talked about, what can we bring attention, what can we do to bring attention to it? And that's really been the driver for some of my work, which sometimes pisses people off, which I kind of enjoy, to be honest with you. Because of we haven't been talking about it, we should be talking about it, right? So a lot of this stuff, and people are so trying to be PC so much that we avoid these topics because it's stuff that we don't talk about, or the stuff we shouldn't be talking about, or your career is not going to flourish if you talk about it, right? So those are the things that we need to become more comfortable with and start thinking about. This is something that we do need to talk about, and my career has done just fine talking about the things we're not supposed to be talking about.
And I love pissing people off, so I appreciate that. But there was something that came up as each of you were speaking, and that negativity, and especially in the issues that you address in your work. So have you had a situation where someone was like, no, you can't do that? Can you silence, that's a little too much. And so if that happened, how did you handle that?
So I'm petty, like real bad. Like really, really bad. So when I graduated, I don't know if you all can pick it up. When I graduated college, I went to the University of Florida, down in Gainesville, Florida. Yeah. And I had a teacher, so as an art student, I don't know if this was similar at any other institution, but we have these things that are called juries. And wow, it sounds intense. Essentially, we are interviewed by all of our faculty. It's just like 6 people sitting in front of us, asking us questions, saying what we did great, what we're bad at, what we could do better. And that is like really traumatic. As I'm graduating, it's supposed to be happy, right? It's supposed to be this positive experience. I had a faculty member tell me, as you explore your dance career, I love that you're exploring your blackness. Never forget that you're white. I was gagged. I said, but I'm not. Okay, cool. So what did I do? I decided to work for the university in admissions and specifically go to areas where there are high populations of first generation, Latine, African American, and low socioeconomic students, and recruit them specifically into that dance program. So I said, okay, if you're not going to educate yourself, I'm going to force you in the department to educate yourselves. And so that's probably most of what I do is when someone tells me no, I'm like, okay, give me a year and I got you.
I'm also like, I'm really bad at following directions. I'm really bad. I'm one of those people that, like, if I was about to take out the trash and you ask me to take out the trash, and I'm like, dang, now I gotta wait at least an hour to take out the trash. So whenever anything that I'm doing is met with resistance, I feel like that's how I know I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing in any of the work. So even with my one-man show, when I made the first draft of the one-man show, I was like, ooh, I'm going to school at the University of Alabama. I'm going to perform this show. It's going to be transformative. It's going to change people's minds, yada, yada, yada. I did the first show, and all of these white people loved it. They were telling me they loved the show, and I went to my director, and I said, we have to change this whole script. Because obviously it's not doing the work, because the status quo is clearly they don't feel any need to change. So I'm always, and I tell my team this all the time, it's if we're not getting any pushback, then we're not really challenging. And if we're talking about social justice and we're talking about challenging injustices, you have to anticipate and be ready for resistance. That is going to happen, and it happens in the artistic work. It happens if you're in the activism space and the protest work. Like, all of it is going to be met with resistance. So be prepared for that. Like, be prepared for that. Anticipate it. And if you're getting no resistance, it might be time to, like, reassess, what am I doing? Am I really creating the change that I want to? And you might be just really sneaky and good at it, which is another good thing. If you're like, they don't even notice it at a certain point. But it started, right, with that initial resistance. So there's going to be some sort of resistance if you're trying to create change.
Yeah, I want to build off of that, because speaking of like resistance, there's a lot of resistance within nursing spaces to speak about things, bodies that are politicized. So like critical race theory and like black bodies, Arab bodies, like the life and right to exist is often politicized. And it's within nursing, we're like, we're neutral, we're not gonna talk about it. Like that's the approach to it. And that is repression and silencing. And a lot of times disability is viewed as not a political concept, because it's something that both parties are like, we're both pro like disabled people, that kind of thing, but disability is political. And that's what disability justice teaches us. And certain bodies are politicized and then not able to be spoken about. So I would say I've received pushback to some degree, but not often, about speaking about ableism, which is disability-based discrimination, and bringing in like the intersectional issue of race. And I, like, for an example, I remember one time a nursing professor was like, so I use the term disabled, and that's intentional, and it's rooted in, a lot of times within medical models, you'll hear the term person with disability, and that is called identity first language, and then there is that's person first language, and then there's identity first language, which is saying disabled person, and that's been a way to reclaim the fact that disability is viewed as a negative word. So I don't say I'm a person with Arabness or a person with queerness, so I can say I am a disabled person. That's me reclaiming the word. I one time had a professor like correct me and say, no, you need to say person with a disability. And so like I explained, I'm doing a certificate in disability ethics here. I've taken lots of coursework on disability and disability justice activism. So just like navigating those times where you receive resistance and pushing forward with it, is definitely, you're gonna experience that in your artwork. So yeah.
I said I have ADHD, so I forgot the question. No, I'm just kidding. All of what they said is, I think what Alex said with when somebody kind of tells you, or even, I think everybody said it here. If somebody tells you you can't do something and like wants me to do it more, I think that's kind of the driver. Like when I started my PhD program, I said, I'm gonna study veterans with less than honorable discharges, and my chair said, no, you're gonna be here forever. And I said, my wife gave me 3 years to finish the program. I finished the program in 3 years studying veterans with less than honorable discharges. So I think the driver a lot of times is where there is resistance, and I think that's a good place to be, and I would recommend get comfortable with being uncomfortable, because I think that's important, because if you're uncomfortable in a situation where other people are feeling uncomfortable, that's a good place to be. That means you need to be there. You need to have your representation in that environment. And it's okay for other people to get uncomfortable around you, because you're probably looking at in areas where nursing has historically not looked at, right? American Nurse Association being a prime example, and I was a big critic of it when a few years back they said, we're not going to pick a political side anymore. We're just going to inform nursing, right? Being neutral is not optional, right? Being neutral is not optional, especially for one of the largest professions, or the largest profession in healthcare. Being neutral is not an option, especially in today's world, right? So we need to have stronger voices. We need to have more support. We need to have more nurses in politics. We need to have more representation. If you look at looking at the American Nurses Association, and I've had this talk with some of the nursing leaders. If you look at the board of the governing board of the American Nurses Association, it's primarily white women, right? So the fact that they chose to become not political, they have a political action group, I get that, and they sort of kind of pushing one way this year, but again, for the most part, they have remained neutral. So be okay with making other people uncomfortable with your ideas, your presence, the things that you guys are pushing. And I've said this for years, and I'm not the only one, but nursing is political.
Yes, you remind me of how I did this presentation on the roots of racial inequities in maternal health. And I went into the conference room, and pretty much everybody was white. But I was like, you know what? They're going to learn about slavery today. They're going to learn about black women today. And I just went in knowing that some of them were going to have challenges, but it's like we have to do it anyways. So I appreciate the work that all of you are doing, and want to know if there's a piece that you want to highlight and uplift where you knew, like, I got them, or this really feels good, or is getting my message across. What is that piece that you have done that stood out to you?
For me, it was, so I graduated with my BFA 6 years ago, I think. Sure. So the piece that was called We Will Get There. Let it sit. Where's there? Exactly. So I kind of vamped that piece from like a 13 person to just a solo, because I was going through a lot physically, mentally, emotionally over the past year, and I was able to present that work at the Baltimore Black Choreographer Festival, last year, which I think was pretty cool. But I think that work itself kind of speaks for who I am, of that I am on this ever constant growing journey. I'm not the same person I was 6 years ago. I'm not the same person I'll be 6 days from now. So that's kind of just like my gentle reminder of like, you are where you need to be. You are making the work that you need to make. And I knew it because after I had graduated, a few students were like, well, I didn't get Alex's work. And in my mind, I was like, well, if you didn't get it, you weren't meant to get it. My work isn't for everybody to understand, and I am A-okay with that. I don't create work for anybody. I create it for myself to feel good. So that's probably my favorite work. We Will Get There. You can find it on my YouTube channel at Alexander M. Murphy.
I would say my answer today is I've published one book. The book is called Made from My Mother's Ceilings, and it's a conversation on black masculinity and kind of like reshaping how I view it. So I wrote the book back in 2017 as part of a photo project we were supposed to be doing for a class. And like I told y'all, I didn't want to follow the directions. So everybody made like a scrapbook to describe gender, and I was like, I published a book. Look at that. So the book, like, it's structured like a paper. It talks about gender in communication, foundations of gender, theories around gender. And although, like, when I look back at it 7 years later, I'm like, some of like my thoughts and things, I'm like, they're not where they are now. I could see I was attempting to get somewhere that I'm still attempting to. We will get there, right? I was like, okay, I can see like where I was in that process in 2017. But the name of the book is this idea of glass ceilings that that black women and women in general, but especially black women, face these glass ceilings. And my mom has like shattered a lot of those, right? And I exist in, as she shatters them, me growing up, black masculinity, I'm picking up all of these pieces and creating this narrative that I think black masculinity is supposed to be. And at a certain point, I realize, oh, all of these things I'm bringing on are the same things that have been used to keep women from reaching spaces. So what does it mean to recognize that and try to like work through that and rework my idea of what black masculinity is? So you can find that book at the Abundance Healthcare table. I have a few copies there, so you can always check it out.
Okay, when I think of the piece that has had the biggest impact, I did a TEDx talk at Ohio State University my senior year of undergrad, and I was the only undergrad that was selected for it, and I was also the only person to get a standing ovation that time, which was dope. But it was like an audience of 1,000 people, and I went through, basically it was like an autoethnographic experience where I went through like all my archives and experiences with racialization, Islamophobia, xenophobia, and assimilation that I experienced growing up. And I just like went through, kind of confronted a lot of things that I had never confronted in my life. So like I take the audience through that journey of, like, for example, my last name is Jamal-Eddine. I did not want the word Jamal in my name, and in 8th grade, they said I needed to start using my full legal name, and I remember crying because I didn't want that there, and nobody said anything, like, why do you not want this word here? Like, and it was racializing me more than I already was experiencing, where everyone thought I was like Hispanic or Indian growing up because nobody had any understanding of what an Arab person was. And just like back to the politicization, like I was not allowed, like Arab was a bad word, and I've reclaimed it. So I would say I was like Mediterranean or Arabian, using all these euphemisms, not liking like the profile of my nose, and like straightening my hair every day, and all of those things. So I like went through all of those life experiences and put that into a poem. And then after the TED Talk, I had probably like over 50 people of color came up to me afterwards and was like, I'm not Arab, but I experienced everything you experienced. Like, we have such a shared experience. So like that shared experience of racialization and just using artwork to connect with people and understand that all of our oppressions are connected was really powerful for me. But yeah, you can find that TED Talk if you look it up, just like everyone else. If you just type in TEDx and my name, even just Sabrina Ali, it'll come up, and that was a special one for me.
So, so various works that I've done have had different impacts on different populations. Probably the one that has had, I'm going to kind of take it back to the art piece of this. I've had the opportunity to work with some neuroscientists and actually put some of their qualitative work into graphics, and that's been an opportunity to share how things like the arts can actually very much go hand in hand with some of the qualitative or quantitative work that we're doing as neuroscientists. So there's several of those. And actually, I walked into a pediatric clinic, and we had done a colleague and myself. She's at Comic Nurse, if you look her up, and her and I worked on a piece that was part of somebody else's qualitative research around pediatric pain assessments. And I walked into a pediatric clinic and I saw my graphic poster thing on their walls. I'm like, that's cool. So they distributed that nationally. But and if anyone's interested in this sort of art form, it's called, if you look up graphic medicine, there's a lot of people in the healthcare arena that are doing just that. They're creating graphic novels around things like depression, LGBTQ and healthcare, trans health, bipolar disorders. You name the whatever it is. There's probably a graphic novel out there, more of a comic form, but it communicates. There's graphic medicine courses that are being taught to physicians to teach empathy. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff that's happening. There's actually and her name, I will look her up and share the information. But there's a historian, a black woman, looked up her own, actually I have her book. She did a sort of like a history of herself, and I'll be done in just 2 seconds.
2 seconds.
And she put her own history as how her ancestry into a graphic novel. So there's a lot of different ways to use this medium to communicate a lot of things that we're experiencing and we're seeing and doing.
Final word, Dr. Canty.
Yeah, no, just to say, this is amazing work, and I hope that those of you who are here today are inspired to share and tap into your artistic side if you haven't done so already. You can never go wrong with expressing yourself, especially if it comes from your heart. So I want to, as everyone could thank our panel for this wonderful talk.
Thank you, everyone. We'll invite our next speaker up, please. Also, you can see their artwork in the art gallery, which is in the back of our program, which we'll email out to you all. There's a link to it on our conference website as well.